We put so much effort into getting out really fantastic photographs, right? But what would you do if all the photographs you've ever taken in your whole life would suddenly be deleted right now, just like that? In this video I'm going to tell you why your photos are maybe not safe in the moment. I will tell you how I managed to get my photos safe out on location but also on my computer. I will tell you which methods I use to back up my files so that I can always be sure not to lose what I built up so hard over so many years, my photographs. Hi my friends, very nice to see you. Are your photographs safe? Is there really no possibility that all your photographs will get deleted by a sudden? You know, I'm a landscape photographer, but I also have an IT and marketing company for more than 20 years now. I started my company in January 2001 and before that I worked as a games and system programmer in a bigger company where I also worked for several years. And today in this video I'll combine my knowledge from photography with that of ID, and I will give you some really great tips of data security, especially for photographers. Well, on my experience as an IT consultant, the biggest problem with backup is, and this is not only for photography by the way, this is for everyone who uses a computer obviously, and I see people having this problem all the time. The biggest problem with backup is that most of the people think like, it doesn't happen to me that I will lose all my data. Yeah, it sounds totally crazy, but reality is when I say to a customer, to an IT customer, that his files are not safe because I found this out on my analysis, 50%, 50 answer, I've never got any problems for multiple years now, so man, what are you telling me? And this reaction is normal, it is quite a logical reaction. I'm sure most of you who are watching this video right now have never lost any photograph in their computer or any other file. But the problem is, it happens anyway, that people get rid of their files. And I see this all of the time. But there are quite simple ways to get safe here. Well, let's talk about what could happen to your photos if you don't backup them. I think then it gets clearer why it is important. The easiest thing is your hard disk could crash. Now, lots of you might think I'm using an SSD, not an HDD, I'm safe. But what not everyone knows is the cycles of how often SSD sectors can be overwritten is limited. The cheaper the SSDs, the earlier it will crash, in many cases earlier than an HDD. This is guaranteed, my friends, each hardware will crash. The question is just when. You've never seen an SSD drive crashing. I have multiple times at computers and laptops of my customers, and all the data on the disks were lost forever if they had no backup. So it is necessary to back up your data to avoid such a disaster. And what I do is, when I come home from a photo tour, I copy all my files from my memory card to my hard disk of my computer, and this is not an integrated hard disk in my case, it is an external one. We'll talk about in a minute why it is an external one. There's a reason therefore. Important is, I have a second external hard disk. This is my backup disk obviously. And what I've learned in my time as an IT consultant is that we never have time for thinking about backup or for backupping our data. Never. Whenever I go to a computer, we have to do anything important. Checking emails, planning photo trips, processing images, printing or selling prints, working for our company or for our boss, whatever. And when I'm finished with working on my computer, I go to my living room and maybe I enjoy a glass of wine with my wife or something like that. But we never have time to think about backup, right? And we even don't want to lose our time with such boring things, right? It might be that there are exceptions, but on my experience, most people don't think about backups during the day. Me as well, by the way. And the reason therefore is simply, usually there doesn't happen anything to our data, right? The chance is low that all the data will be deleted tomorrow morning, but the chance is still there. When your disk works for months or even years, you don't have a reason to think about backups because you don't see the requirement, and this is the problem. what I do is to get rid of this issue, I have an automatic backup process what copies all the changes from my external hard disk to my second one, my backup disk. And this is done once a day. It is not mirrored. Mirrored disks are no backup solution. This is often misunderstood. Mirrored disks just protect against hardware outages, so that you can go on with working when one disk crashes, but usually the second one crashes short time after that in my experience. If it were only mirrored so that it would copy all the data immediately, it could end up that you delete a folder by accident, a folder that is bigger than the trash can of course, so that you were not able to restore it afterwards. So I always have a whole day between here with my automatic backup process. I use a script that manages this backup, what I've written by myself, but you could use any backup software like Acronis for instance, or each other backup software, doesn't really matter, but Acronis is quite good by the way, they offer really good solutions. But whatever you use, it should do the backup job automatically for you, so you don't have to think about it. And daily is a fantastic cycle here. Well, this is at least a good starting point for our backup. If my first disk should crash, or if I would delete any folder by accident, I have a backup, I could restore it immediately. But the question is, are our photos really safe with this solution? And as an IT consultant, I have to say here a clear no. It's not safe enough, because what would happen if your house would burn down? What? What did you say? Your house never burned down before? I believe you, my friend, truly. My house also burned never down before, but fact is, houses are burning. The chance that yours will burn once is low, and we don't want to wish this of course, but the chance is still given that it could happen. And there is no insurance out there who will restore your files. This is what you have to do to care for you by yourself. And it doesn't need to be a fire that crashes your files. It could be any other kind of nature catastrophe. Or you could simply just install any malware on your computer, maybe a ransomware or something like encrypts all of your files on your disk. I've seen this so many times on the computers of my clients. I mean, I could tell you a lot of ways how you can get rid of your files, but it doesn't make a difference. Important to understand this, there exists a chance that you would wake up one day and all your files, all your photos you've worked so long on are gone. That's the ugly truth about data. You can lose it if you don't back up it. So to avoid that, I do different things. First of all, I don't want only to back up my files, I also want to archive them. And therefore I exchange my 2 external hard drives each year. I archive one of these disks anywhere in my house, and the other one I give to another location, another house, maybe to my office in my company, what is another village, or I could also give it to a better friend or your parents, however, doesn't really matter. Important is that it is at another physical location. So whenever my house would burn down, I have an archive, at least up to the end of last year. And now you see also the reason why I don't have a NAS here or a file server. I also have to archive my data, and 2 hard disks each year is a quite good solution here. And it's also a quite cheap solution. I use hard disks from Western Digital, what I'm quite happy about. I will leave you a link down, but yeah, you can use any brand of course, but I would recommend to avoid the cheapest ones. Yeah, I mean, they tend to crash, to be honest. And I do this not only for my photos, I do this also for my videos. Yeah, all in all, that's quite a lot of data each year. This is a good solution, but to be honest, it's not perfect, because in the worst case I want to lose as little data as possible. And the obvious next thought is now to back up everything to any cloud, right? But to be honest, I'm not happy to any of the cloud solutions out there. Sorry guys. Either they are not fast enough for my office works, or they are simply not safe enough. I saw lots of people losing data on different clouds, and this is why our company has an own cloud solution. We use it for ourselves and we sell it also to our clients. It works fantastically. The only problem is for photography, and I want to be honest with you, it is much too expensive for a huge amount of data. It is totally okay for normally company data, but in photography or maybe videography we are talking about terabytes each year, and therefore it is just too expensive. So it gets tricky, but as I have already a local backup due to my 2 external hard drives, I'm fine with already a cheaper cloud solution. Yeah, it's all about adding to my entire backup concept. It's just a part of the whole. And I stumbled over a cloud backup solution around a year or even 2 ago, something like that, and it's called Backblaze. And I have to say, it's quite the perfect backup solution for me as addition to my entire backup concept. It costs just, I think, $6 a month for one computer, and you have unlimited space. Amazing, isn't it? It backs up the files immediately after you have changed on your disk them, or maybe not immediately, but some minutes later or maybe hours, depending on how big the data files are, what you changed, and how fast your internet connection is, obviously. And it is so simple to use. You just have to install a software what you can download for free from the Backblaze website, and you just have to choose the drives and folders you want to back up automatically. I use it now for more than a year, and I really have to say it works for me. It is also so easy to restore data. You just have to choose the particular drive, folder or files you want to restore, and you can simply download them. And what's quite fantastic here, if your whole data gets destroyed on your computer, let's say your house burned down. We don't want to wish this, of course, but anyway, let's imagine you have lost all of your data. In this case, you could either download your whole files from the Backblaze, or they send you a whole hard disk with all your data on. To be honest, this costs a tiny bit, but I think it's round about what a normal empty hard disk would cost if you buy them by Amazon or wherever. Well, what's quite cool, I found. But now there comes the best thing. If you send this hard disk back to them within, I think, 30 days or something like this, they pay you the money back for the disks. It's amazing, isn't it? So this is the first cloud backup solution I use for my automatic backups, and the second cloud solution I use is Google Drive, and I use it for Achiving only. You know, daily backups in the one hand, Achiving in the other hand. Google Drive is a bit more expensive, to be honest, especially when you need more space. It also supports automatic backups, but I use it only for Achiving my older photos and videos which are older than 12 months. This is something what I do manually, one time each year, at the same time where I exchange my external hard drive so that I don't forget about that. Sometimes when I think about it, I also upload the folders from the last months so that I have even an additional backup. So if my house should burn down, and we don't want to wish this, but if it should happen, I would not lose most of my photographs and videos. And yeah, I mean, we worked so hard on our photographs, it were a big pain to lose all of them. Well, what about the memory card out in the field? And I have to say, in more than 20 years in IT, I've never seen a memory card that was really damaged. I have seen a lot of memory cards of clients who thought that it were damaged because it didn't work anymore and they got an error. But in most cases, the card itself was okay, just the file system crashed. Just quick, what does this mean? On each drive there exists a kind of hidden file that is known as file allocation table, short FAT. It works a little bit different on different file system, but let's call it anyway FAT. This makes it easier for me here to explain the principle. Okay, I try to hold it as simple as possible. The FAT is something like a map that the computer or the camera knows where on the drive are all the single files located, the photographs obviously. Without the FAT, it were not possible to access any file. All the data on the drive would be useless. So what often happens is, especially in landscape photography, let's imagine you are out on an amazing spot, you see a sunset or a spectacular rainbow. It's just outstanding. You take one exposure after the other to get the right timing for your composition, and while your camera exposes the last photograph, the battery of your camera gets finished. So in this case, the camera wasn't able to write the last file completely onto the memory card. And if it wrote to the FAT at this time, exactly at that time where the battery got finished, you guessed it already, the FAT will get damaged obviously. It's just logical. It started to write to the FAT, but it didn't finish it. So the FAT is dead. All the files on the memory card can't be located anymore, although they are still there and undamaged. Finally, it looks like that the memory card were damaged because you will get an error when you try to use it on your camera and also on your computer. And so people think the memory card were damaged, but the good news is there's always a backup of the FAT on each drive. So when your computer or your camera says that the memory card doesn't work anymore, don't format it. You really don't want to do this, because if you format it, it will delete all of your files forever. What you want to do instead is you want to repair the FAT with a simple file check in Windows. I'm sure this will also work with Apple. The file check simply repairs the FAT, the file allocation table. I will not go into detail here, just Google after file check or repair file system, something like that. By the way, I use a Sony A7R IV camera. It would support a second memory card slot, but I don't use a second memory card by myself. Again, I've never seen a really damaged memory card. What does not mean that it really could happen, of course, but the chance is extremely low therefore. What I do instead is I always have at least one additional memory card with me. So yeah, I mean, these are more than one, but what I do is when really a card damaged, or when really the file system damaged, what I do is I just replace it with another card and I shoot all the photographs on that day with the other card. And when I come home back, I just take my first SD card and I repair it, and I lose no photograph with this method. I used this already so many times in this way and it really works fantastically. But of course it could anyway happen that really your memory card itself crashes, so if you want to get 100% sure, use a second memory card. There's nothing bad with that. But yeah, in this case I would at least take a third card with me, because the chance that the file allocation table on the second memory card crashes simultaneously to the first memory card is quite high when the battery is finished. My friends, I hope this was not too complicated. I hope it was useful. Check out Backblaze down in the description. It's a really cool cloud backup for photographers just for a few bucks a month. Leave me a comment below how you backup your files. Give me a thumb up if you like this video, and don't forget about your friends. Let's also get their photographs safe and share this video on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever you want. I thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
I'm the landscape you need to see. You are the artist I'll never be. Stay with me and I have no doubt you'll make a painting that makes you proud.